My 11 Circle presents Cricbuzz Live. As you can see, we generally try and be very neutral on the show, not supporting one side or the other, so hence a profusion of colors as far as I'm concerned. But for one of my guests in particular, just seconds before we went on the show, he pointed to his collar and said, "Look, my Mumbai blue." I'm talking Shaun Pollock. Shaun, yeah, you can unbutton, you can do whatever you like.
I was many years there, so you need to have a little bit of loyalty.
It's absolutely fine, but the way they played today with the final 6 overs of their batting and then pretty much taking charge throughout the Punjab run chase, you have to give it to them. Today was the day to be in blue. Also, the other comment you made, if I can let it out for the viewers, "I'm glad I retired," said Shaun Pollock.
Yeah, well, when you're going for 104 in 6 overs, I don't know. I would have a sleepless night if I went back to the hotel if I had to bowl some of those overs. But I think the last 6 overs of their innings, and then they did really well in that middle period, led by Bumrah and Chahar. I think those two performers for Mumbai were superb with the ball. But have a look at those comparisons. Wow.
That pretty much tells the story. The 104 for 1 between 15 and 20, and Punjab 38 for 4. Until that point in time, if you went over by over, they were actually 4, 5, 6, sometimes 10 runs ahead of where Mumbai were. But what they did not account for, of course, the wickets that they'd lost, which was the key men up front, and what Mumbai did at the back end, Pommie.
Yeah, I think what you've got to say, and it's not taking away from Mumbai, it's what Kings 11 didn't do at the back end. As you look at that game, I mean, that's just glaring at you. And you look at 104 and you say, well, let's halve it. If you halve that, you're still in that game. You're still saying, well, okay, well done. You're okay, but you were going better than that. Maybe I might be being slightly unkind in saying they should go for 52 in that time. But let's put it up. Let's say 60. If they go for 6, that's a whole lot of runs less. I'm 100% sure that as they sit in that change room, number one, the bowling group will say, well, we haven't done ourselves any favors. We haven't covered ourselves in glory in that part of the game. And number two, the coaching staff, the skipper, those responsible for not getting them over the line in the 2 games they should have won, will be sitting there going, this is why those 4 points were critical.
And I think, this is normally at the start of the show on My 11 Circle presents Cricbuzz Live. We give you the match summary. But the reason we didn't do that at the very outset is because the story of the game was in the comparison between where those last 6 overs went for Mumbai and where it went for Punjab. That was the story. We try and tell the story, and we've pretty much done that. But Shaun, it's seeming to be a slightly familiar tale of what Punjab have done in previous years. They've looked good on paper, they've had firepower, but when you look at the points table, hang on, we should be doing better than that.
Yeah, it's, as Pommie mentioned, 2 close encounters that they've gone down, and now after 4 games you sit with that 1 victory. And I don't know if we can get that graphic up again, but it was another case in point where they didn't finish well and put themselves under the immense pressure to get started well in the batting innings. And when you actually have a look at their batting, they were 33 after 3 overs. And I was really disappointed with the way the Mumbai Indians bowled their first 2 overs in particular. I thought it was a kind of surface where if you're back of a length, just outside the off stump, you bring the slip into play, you were going to put the team under pressure. And it was very out of character in many ways from Bolt. It was a lot of short deliveries. And Patterson to start with, I think 3 or 4 of his first 6 deliveries were down the leg side. So they got off to the fly. It was 2 men that were set in. And then the next 3 overs of the power play, I think it was like 2 wickets for 8 runs, and all of a sudden Mumbai were back in the game. So it was always going to be the challenge of the fact that the 2 openers had done so well throughout this tournament so far, that when the middle order was called upon to have a bit of a decent knock rather than just a little cameo, could they be up for it? Were they ready to do it? And I think that's where Bumrah and Chahar came good.
Yeah, Pommie, we were chatting about it on Cricbuzz Combox in the 10th over. Puran and Maxwell were in. Puran had a close shave. There was a review that went in his favor. And we sort of agreed that never count them out. But the fact is, 2 points. One, as Shaun Pollock mentioned, that they've not quite sunk their teeth in the middle order. But B, the quality of the Mumbai attack, the options they had to go to. And the fact that a Bolt and Pattinson could look back at their first couple of overs and say, we can do better. And they did.
Yeah, the game is so compartmentalized, isn't it? And you'd hope that you don't lose it in one of the sections as you go along. And by that, I mean, if you lose the power play, and you don't do so well, you can come back maybe in the middle bit, or you can hang on in the middle bit. And if you win the end overs sufficiently well, you can actually salvage the result and end up on the winning side. And so as you watched Kings 11 go along, the start had to be good, but the pressure was already a whole lot because of that 104. It like comes from left field. It's from nowhere. And you now have two guys who are in form, under pressure to show their form, but also to play a little bit quicker than they would on a surface that's good, right? They have to go at these guys who are going to bowl decently. As Shaun says, they didn't necessarily bowl so well at them up at the front. And part of that was the fact that the guys are in top form. They're playing well and they're playing these nice shots. But how do you keep up with all of that? Because as you look at it, 190 is looking so far away. As they try to keep playing shots, an error is bound to occur somewhere or other. And then guys who are not in form, haven't had time, have to come and play like the guys up. Why? You make it too difficult for yourself. I think that's the problem, essentially.
Yeah, and when you have that class, I mean, yes, when a Bumrah is sitting at fine leg or third man, watching Bolt and Pattinson bowl those first couple of overs, he knows, Shane Bond knows, Mahela Jayawardene knows that they can go back to Jasprit Bumrah, and that class showed today. When Bumrah does well, Mumbai do well.
Yeah, he's been such a big player for them over the years, and the thing about him is very much like Malinga was in the many years for Mumbai, is that he does perform well in the different roles. So get him in the first six, he can pick you up wickets and he can keep it tight. Bring him on in the middle if you need to maybe find a wicket, or at the back end he's been really good. I mean, it's been more of a surprise this tournament that his back end bowling hasn't been as good as we've come to expect from him, but. He's like three-dimensional, as I say. He can do the different jobs, and that's why he's such a big player. And when he does well, in many ways, it was the same as Malinga. When Malinga's on and performing like he can, a team's very difficult to beat.
Yeah, and I think Punjab know that, because I was just picking up on the Cricbuzz app and trying to read what Mayank Agarwal said when he was spoken to at the end, and he sort of admitted that we could have been 3 wins out of 4. At this stage, and they will be hurting when they look back on those games. It was actually KL Rahul, the captain, who said it, but Mayank Agarwal would pretty much echo his sentiments, because he too chatted at the end of the game.
It sounds like you're pointing at him because he's responsible for one of those losses, isn't he? Play well, do so well in a game, and then fail to just get the side over the line. It's such a tight competition. And there's so many teams that can rescue themselves. And I should also say there's so many teams, if you give away the advantage, if you give them a game, they'll gleefully accept. And when you meet them a second time round, they'll be sure to punish you as well. So whenever the points are on offer, whenever you get yourself to the brink, I think you've got to be good enough and skillful enough, number one, but steely enough of nerve and of mind to ensure that your side gets over the line, because I'll say again, they can't and couldn't afford those 4 points going away.
Yeah, they certainly couldn't. And just a quick reminder of where we stood at the end of this particular game. Once again, it was a case of side that won the toss, ended up losing the game. Team that batted first, 10 out of 13, winning the game. 191 for 4. Mumbai in their 20 overs, bulk of that coming in the last 6 overs and at a rapid rate. Punjab in response started really well. First couple of overs, 3 overs, 33, and then it all fell apart. 143 for 8. The whole pressure of that run chase was too much. Nicholas Pooran looked good, but once again, probably not enough. Probably enough to keep his place in the side, but not enough. Just another word on Jasprit Bumrah. Really, it's that impact that the quality bowlers are having. There's a long list we talked about throughout this tournament. The class fast bowlers are making an impact, and they're leading to victories for the team, Pommie.
Yeah, I think what's also important when you have good players is their backup. So with Bumrah, you have a scenario where there's Bolt and there's Pattinson. And so each time that he comes to bowl, so let's say he has an off day, a day off, I don't know which way that goes, but let's say he has an off color day and he doesn't do well up at the front, there is the backup, right? When he comes in first of all and doesn't go so well, there is that backup. But even if he is used differently, so if he's used up at the front and Pattinson and Bolt have gone all right before him, you don't have a choice as the team batting. You can't just play him out, because playing him out just gets you further and further back from the game, and it makes things more difficult. So I think that has a big role to play as well. He's a wonderful bowler, and we know how good he is. But just getting it all set up nicely by the support cast all around it, I think fits well, and it does just right for Mumbai Indians for him to be able to play that role.
Yeah, to finish up the point, Sean, yes, there's no Malinga at the other end, and you said he almost plays a Malinga-like role himself. But when you've got that quality at the other end, Coulter Nile's being kept out by Pattinson at the moment, so you know there's enough to choose from. He used 5 bowlers today, could have gone to Pollard if something went wrong.
Yeah, he could have. He's got the options, and Hardik Pandya's coming back. But, I mean, we go back to the real changing of the tide in this match was those last 6 overs. And you do think to yourself, well, if Bumrah had bowled 2 of those to Pandya and to Pollard, you just don't feel that they would have gone for 104. And therein lies the strength of the individual and why he's so valuable. There's in the T20 game, if you can win the power play and you can win the last 5 overs, invariably you end up winning the match. And as a bowler, you can influence both those aspects. Obviously batsmen can do more because they can be at the crease for the full 20 overs and dictate terms. But when you have got those guys that you can rely on to perform 7 or 6 times out of 10, that's when you're going to end up having a successful team in the tournament. And Bumrah is one of those guys who we can rely on, or Mumbai can rely on. And that's why, as I mentioned earlier, it's been a surprise.
Sean, did you say we? Okay, mate. Yeah.
We as observers of the game. That's why we've been surprised at how he's gone so far. He is class, and he has had many months off and had a bit of an injury niggle before that. So I think he's going to get better and better as the tournament goes on.
I reckon for Kings 11 Punjab, I think what's important is for them to identify who it is who's going to bowl in that time. If you ask Rohit Sharma who his death bowlers are, who's generally going to bowl in the last 4 overs, he'll tell you every single game. There's no doubt that one of those people will be Jasprit Bumrah, right? So there's one guy, and many times there'll be 2 overs in there, right? In the last 4 overs, if he can work it out how he wants, because he's got Bolt, because he's got Pattinson, he'll have Bumrah follow up in the power play, and Bumrah one somewhere in the middle, perhaps as a gun batsman comes in, and he'll save 2 to bowl at the end. Who is it that Kings 11 Punjab have identified and said, this is our guy who will bowl 2 at the death? Yes, Mohammad Shami, you look at him and you say, yes, that's your guy. But somebody must bowl the others, the other 2 overs. And you've got to decide who it is. I don't think they know at this time.
Agreed. And if you also ask Rohit Sharma, who would your boys like to face towards the end, they'd probably say, bring on Jimmy Neesham, bring on Krishnappa Gautam, 18 and 20. It was a treat for them. And I'm sure it's something they're going to have to look at, Punjab, which means the points table will reflect that they haven't got the 3 out of 4 wins that they feel they deserve. They are only on the 2 points from 4 games. Just 2 teams have played 4 games. One of them is Mumbai. They sit pretty at the top with 4 points and a superior net run rate, and all to play for at the bottom there. Chennai have had a bit of a gap, and they will be playing tomorrow. We'll come more about that in a short while. But firstly, what about those team selections? KL Rahul might have had a few headaches. I'm sure all of you did as well in terms of picking your best possible My 11 Circle combination. If you were brilliant at it, you would have got the My 11 Circle ultimate team of the day. And that's what it would have been with Rohit Sharma leading the way. Kieron Pollard provided that muscle with a little help from the Punjab bowlers. Cottrell was there, Shami was there, as were Pattinson and Bumrah. What a nice foursome that bowling makes. Krishnappa Gautam, Rahul Chahar and Ishan Kishan. A few names definitely who wouldn't have made it were going for a few. What about our champion, our My 11 Circle champion of today, who made the best possible selection? Score of 327.75, and the Shades will add another 50 points to that. Devan Ahirwar from Chhatarpur in Madhya Pradesh. We've got viewers from just about every corner of the country, and we love it. Keep it coming. Keep selecting the teams, and we'll keep recognize you here. All right, in terms of huffing and puffing and having the stamina at the end of the day, we like to assess our boost stamina meter at the start, but also at the end. So at the end of this game, who was it who stood out with the boost stamina meter? And here it is. It was Pollard at the start, and it's Rohit Sharma at the end. He batted through. He earned the most batting points for Mumbai, 92.9. And importantly, he was there for 97 balls during Mumbai's innings, 8 fours, 3 sixes. 71% of his runs came from boundaries, which meant that the other 29% also had plenty of running to do. So deservingly, Rohit Sharma, as captain, boost stamina meter of the day, Pommie.
Yeah, played well. I think Mumbai will be very happy to see him return to form. I'll say he was fluent again. Those shots over the offside, those pull shots that Rohit Sharma plays. Yeah, he is a wonderful batsman to watch. Stylish and generally scores lots of runs for Mumbai Indians. And if he has a decent season, then they do all right. And yeah, over many seasons, I mean, that's why they've won the most titles, isn't it? Because there's that stability in terms of performance from the key areas in their lineup. And he's certainly one of those key men.
I think it was mental stamina today. Mental stamina today, definitely, because I think he analysed the surface and he didn't throw it away. You know, he could have easily tried to force the issue, and he managed to hang in there. And then by him doing so, it allowed Pandya and Pollard to come in and not have to just knock it around. They could almost just come in and say, okay, it's time for us to go. And then obviously he used some good mental stamina and the way he used his bowlers and obviously set up his field. So all those facts and figures didn't take into account the mental stamina, but I thought that part was really good.
Now, I think that's an excellent point, because when we talk about the boost stamina meter, yes, we put a few parameters in there about the singles and the doubles and the boundaries. But yes, when you're captain and when you've done a good job of it, you certainly bring the entire package to take your team home. So that was Rohit Sharma and Mumbai getting through another 2 points over Punjab, and that will stand them in good stead. But there's plenty more cricket coming your way. It might be 2 points for them, but what about Chennai? We haven't forgotten about them. They haven't played for a while. We hope they haven't forgotten all about it. They are taking on a team who have been pretty much well-oiled and giving it everything. But, well, Stephen Fleming seems to think that the break will have done them good. They're off to Dubai to take on Hyderabad. Let's see what our panel thinks early on in terms of the break. How would you assess a break, Pommie? I mean, sometimes it can be a good thing, and Fleming maybe he's putting on a brave face, but sometimes you don't want to get too rusty. We've already had 6 months off the game.
Yeah, I hear that. I hear where you're coming from. I think, though, with the way that the tournament started, and I think they had, 3 games in 7 days, or might have been 6 days, actually. It was 7 days, yeah. So it was all too quick. And Stephen Fleming makes a valid point in saying there's a case for having to be the ones who play at the 3 different venues as the first team playing, because you must now assess what you ought to do and assess it and be on point. If you're not, then you could end up on the wrong side of those games. And that's fair enough as a comment. With regard to having the break, the issue for me is that people get fit again. I think that's, having played a couple of games, everyone you can pick from your whole squad and you can go again with some knowledge, having watched some other teams, and there's sufficient experience in that side for them to have gleaned quite a lot from watching the few games over the days that they've had off.
Sean, the first name that obviously comes to mind is Ambati Rayudu, impact player at the top of the order for Chennai. And if they'd had one more game very close to those first three, he might not still have been fit, but he is fit now, and that's going to be a huge inclusion for them.
Yeah, and not only will he be fit, he'll be properly fit. Sometimes you rush people back and they 80% and they can do some more damage. So with this extended break, I'm sure he'll be 100%. We'll wait and see what happens with Bravo. But I think he's been a big player, hasn't he? There was a graphic that came up, I think it was in their second or third game, that he is the leading run scorer in the last 2 seasons, if you add up all the innings in the RPL. So he is a man that they have relied on. He's got a wealth of experience, and he's a good player. And Vijay hasn't gone all that great at the top of the order. Where will the changes come? We'll have to wait and see. But when you get big players back, it's no doubt it is a boost. I think there would have been a few management meetings as well, chatting with Dhoni about what they do or don't want to do with the order, who they think is going to be the key performers. So the other person, I know I've seen him perform so well over the years, but Imran Tahir would be someone who I would think they've got to consider. We've seen some spinners perform, even today, Bishnu and Chahar. What is it about their performances that have been good is that the pace they bowl at and that the length that they hit, it hits the top of the stumps. And spinners these days can't give it too much air. The batsmen stay in their crease, they back themselves, but slightly over pitch, they just whack through the line, and invariably they clear these boundaries. Imran Tahir, what me and Pommie have seen him do for over all the years that we've watched him for South Africa, is his length is impeccable. And it doesn't matter if it's a South African condition or a subcontinent condition. He hits the top of those stumps, bowls nice and straight, gives nothing away. And I think that's what they've been lacking. I know they've gone to Chala, and I don't think he's the kind of guy. I think they can build some more pressure in the middle with Imran Tahir. So I think there would have been some discussion about that, and we have to wait and see if they decide to go that way.
The big question is, I think it's a no-brainer he has to come in. The big question, in whose place? Sam Curran has shown that he's sort of holding on to that place that DJ Bravo sort of vacated for him. Josh Hazelwood's bowled well. Faf du Plessis is contributing. So I see Shane Watson as the only possibility to be sacrificed to bring Imran Tahir in. You agree, Pommie?
Only? I don't think so. I don't know if he's the only place they would change. I know that Sam Curran has done well. And I'd have him in my team, particularly from what he's showed and from what we know in the way that he goes. I think, however, in thinking about, what do you need where and what do you need more where, and that's what's going to decide it. In terms of bowling, I can see somewhere along the line where both those spinners, Piyush Chawla and Imran Tahir, would play in MS Dhoni's side. Now, that's dependent on what they think when they turn up at a surface. Are they playing on one that's new? Are they playing on one that's been played on before and has been a little bit on the slow side? I think you can go with both of them. They're not going to drop Faf du Plessis, I don't think, because he's got runs in the couple of games that they, that they have played. So, it's down. It always is. It's down the bottom at the bowling where you can fill in. I think that they would be doing all their shifts and their changes.
Pommie, I'm going to ask you to do us a favor tomorrow. Are you working the game?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Well, can you influence it from a TV perspective? Jadeja, I'm sure his arm is higher than it used to be. He used to undercut the deliveries more, and I think they're getting onto him because he's almost thrown it up, whereas he used to be very flat. Maybe they can see if they can get some analysis done there as to maybe last year and the year before what his angle of attack was, and if he has got a little bit taller. Let's find out.
I actually agree with you. I think a natural variation from him, because of being a bit more round arm, is what did a whole lot of people. And only occasionally would he go over the top. And maybe there's an emphasis in his own mind on trying to actually turn it. And so maybe that's why he's going over the top. but that's playing into the hands of guys who are trying to hit sixes and just hit out the ground. I'll see what I can do, Sean. Yeah, what a friend's for, hey?
Well done. Do him a favor. But just to finish up on the point, Sean, since we didn't quite get a conclusion for this particular issue, if you were in that dugout, Sean, and you were told you need to help us with this decision, we have to get Imran Tahir in, who do you drop?
It is a difficult one. I think you got to look at the surface first of all. If that surface is anything like what we saw yesterday, I think Josh Hazlewood could be a real handful on that pitch with the extra bounce he gets. I would think to sacrifice an international player. I don't know. I think I'd probably still go for Sam Curran. I think I would just have a look for a game and see if the inclusion of the extra spinner can make a difference. I think Shane Watson will come good, and their batting has been a bit of their issue. So I wouldn't want to tinker too much with that.
Fair enough. And I guess if it slows up a bit, then you could sacrifice Hazlewood, get in Shardul Thakur for that extra pace option. But it's a headache. It's a headache for sure.
Can I say, Gautam, that
Go ahead.
This is showing that it's not Mr. All-Rounder. When it comes down to it, he's Mr. Fast Bowler. He's just backed the fast bowler there and decided all-rounder Sam Curran, you're gone. Yeah, that's what he's done.
Don't be upset.
That's what he's done.
You're part of that club, Pommie.
I'm not upset. I'm quite happy, actually.
Exactly.
Well, is Shane Watson not classed as an all-rounder anymore?
Not anymore.
No, it doesn't matter. Get him up.
Get him some overs in the nets.
He's not bowling anything. He's not bowling underarm, if you ask him.
You can just imagine if we're having a laugh about this, what's going on in that Chennai dressing room. Good luck to them to figure that combination out. Hyderabad, maybe not so many headaches, certainly performing decently as well. Let's have a look at their squad. You've got a couple of big men in Jason Holder and Billy Stanlake, who are just basically holding up the doors of the dressing room for the moment. Not much else to do. But, the one question that they'll have to answer once they have managed to get those combinations right, Kane Williamson, Manish Pandey, who goes in at number 3.
I think they can play it by ear as it goes along. But I think it's just the team setup just looks so much better with Kane Williamson in. I think it looks more settled. I think everyone in the team feels like it's the right decision, and it is another balancing act, much like the Chennai situation, where they have to do it, and they've decided to go on the batting side of things. And I think it's not the bad option. The only change I would make, I think, also after winning the last game, stick with what you've got, try and create a little bit of momentum, try and create a bit of security in the players. The only thing, as I actually thought about it the other night, is who would make a change if they get to Sharjah. Billy Stanlake must play. Is the only bowlers that I've seen that have been effective so far on that surface is the tall guys who run in at pace, hit back of a length, and it's almost like the ball just stops in the surface and then comes up and still gets some good bounce. So I think they would consider him in Sharjah. I think that would be an option. But for tomorrow, I'm saying stick with your combination. I'm happy.
Interesting
Just a point on Sunrisers Hyderabad is that so many teams tend to look at other teams in trying to create the makeup of their own team. And this is in relation to Kane Williamson and what he brings. Now, just because you don't have a guy who hits it out the ground and hits all these big hits and is a big, he's a smasher, doesn't mean that he's not effective. He knows he's not going to try and turn himself into one of those. He just isn't one of those. But what he is particularly effective in the middle with his deflections, and he finds a way to get things going. If you look at his numbers, actually, they're decent numbers as far as, and it doesn't matter where you bat him, whether you ask him to start up top, which they have done before, whether you want him to bat at 3, whether you want him to bat at 4, and he'll come in and he'll play the situation to the best of his ability. Now, Sunrisers, when going well, don't need you, as they showed the other day, and if conditions allow, they don't need to get 180, 190. They can play and get what they feel is okay on the day and if they bowl decently enough, generally will defend. They're a better defending side. And Kane solidifies the middle, and he makes them play with their heads rather than with emotion.
All right, very briefly, Shaun Pollock, before I let this discussion finish, I know it's far away, but when they do get to Sharjah and you get your wish for Billy Stanlake, I still have that question. In whose place? Williamson, Bairstow, Warner, Rashid Khan. Who would you get out?
One of them will have a little niggle. We'll rest him.
Okay, there you go. That's the only way. There is no other way. I mean, it's a problem. I mean, Stanley, Jason Holder, Mohammad Nabi, they're all in that lineup. Oh, it's such a lovely lineup they have there, but it's a pleasant headache to have. But it's a great match that we're looking forward to. Chennai against Hyderabad, yellow against orange. For the moment, I know some of you have been scratching your heads, wondering what Joy Bhattacharya served up to you. And you've been thinking and you've been pondering over it. Ponder no more. We have the answer for you. Let's just remind you of the question. Today's Joy Factor question. And we thought about it. We had a long discussion amongst the three of us. The last person to achieve this, currently in a team in this tournament, the second last one in our Cricbuzz live shows, the fourth last is playing today. What cricketing feat am I talking about? And let's talk about the answer. It's yes, we were on the right track, folks. Ranji Trophy triple hundreds. The only fact is we were a little muddled about which the numbers were or which the names were. Sarfraz Khan, Manoj Tiwari, of course, on our Hindi show today. Mayank Agarwal playing today. So, wow, that's two players who were actually playing today. And what a classic Sarfraz served up to us very recently when they were questioning, can he last a long time? And he said, 100? 200? I'll give you 300. So, well done.
We've got to say who we were thinking. We were thinking Viru. We were thinking KL Rahul. We were thinking Karun Nair.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. So we also tossed Mayank Agarwal in there, but we thought maybe he's not the guy, right?
Yeah.
So we weren't too far, Joy. Hey, not too far.
We did good with triple hundred. So who's our winner? It's not Pollock, it's not Bhimani, it's not Mbangwa. Who's our winner today for the Joy Factor question? And it's Devanshu Mankar. Devanshu 1016. I'm always curious about handles as to what it comes from. 1016.
His birthday is coming up.
It should have been Devanshu 300.
That would be a good one. Oh, you mean backwards, 16th October, if you're 16th October. But we write it 1610 in this part of the world. So that's probably not, it might be his birth year. That'd be a little bit old, 1016. Sorry about that. But you're old and wise, like Joy with his gray hair. That's around the time he was born. So just in case he's seeing all these little slips, please cut that part out. So next time he won't be pulling out one of those books for us. He lives down the road from where I am. I should be careful what I'm saying about him. So I won't say any more, gentlemen. Just about time to say thank you very much to Shaun Pollock, who's been braving a few storms in the area, but all good now, Shaun?
Yeah, we've had a few storms. There's some proper rain here in Durban, but it seems to have quietened itself down.
Yeah, Pommie, much more happy to be in the desert. No rain over there. Just make sure the food keeps coming, Pommie Mbangwa.
Yeah, dessert coming soon, mate.
Oh, yeah. Midnight snack coming up for Pommie Mbangwa. No, it's not midnight there. It's 10:30. It's only 10:30 for Pommie Mbangwa. Thank you very much. On that note, gentlemen, Shaun and Pommie, thank you all for watching. We'll see you all for Chennai against Hyderabad. You've been watching My 11 Circle presents Cricbuzz Live.